It got into the house through a window left open against the heat. A small, dark shape, looping through the living room near midnight, and the whole family came awake to chase it. Nora was the one who finally caught it. She folded it into a dish towel the way you'd cradle any frightened animal, and carried it back out into the dark. Afterward, there was a mark on her finger, thin as a paper cut. She washed it. Everyone went back to bed. Nobody called a doctor. It was a bat in the house. A story to tell at school, not an emergency. For 5 weeks, nothing happened. She went to class. She forgot about it. Then the thing that had been in that bat's saliva arrived. A virus shaped like a tiny bullet that had spent those 5 weeks creeping the entire length of the nerves in her arm. By some estimates, only a centimeter or two a day, climbing patiently toward her brain. And a girl who had been completely healthy a month earlier sat up in a hospital bed and could not make herself drink a glass of water. The moment it touched her lips, her own throat slammed shut. Here is the part that should stop you cold. By the time anyone understood what was wrong with her, the one treatment on Earth that could have saved her had already run out. It ran out weeks before, on the night she decided a mark that small wasn't worth a phone call, and the animal that carried it is one that has almost certainly been closer to where you sleep than you think. Start with the kind of person Nora was, because it matters to how this happened. She was the one who caught the bat instead of screaming at it. The one who didn't want it hurt. While everyone else was ducking and swinging dish towels, she was thinking about the animal. That it was terrified. That it just wanted out. So she caught it gently, and she let it go. And the only cost was a scratch she barely felt. That's the cruel joke buried in this whole story. The bite wasn't the price of being reckless. It was the price of being kind. And here's what almost nobody knows about a bat bite. It can be so small you genuinely cannot tell it happened. Bats have tiny, needle-fine teeth, and the wound can be a pinprick, gone by morning, no different from a scratch off a thorn or a kitchen knife. People have been bitten in their sleep and woken up with no idea. So the warning that's supposed to send you to a doctor, a real puncture, real blood, often just isn't there. Her mother asked the next morning, half joking, whether they should call somebody about it. And the answer felt obvious. It was a tiny mark. The bat was long gone. Nora felt completely fine. They laughed about it the way you laugh about the night a bat got in. And they let it go. That decision. That small, reasonable, completely understandable decision. It was the only moment in this entire story when anyone could have stopped what was coming. After that, the clock was already running. And rabies runs its clock in silence. This is what makes rabies different from almost anything else that can get into you. Most of the things that hurt you announce themselves. They make you sick within hours or days. Rabies does the opposite. After a bite, the virus doesn't rush anywhere. It settles into the muscle right around the wound and quietly multiplies, latching onto the very tips of the nerves in no hurry at all, and it waits. For most people, that wait is 1 to 3 months. Sometimes it's less than a week. Sometimes it stretches past a year. A whole season of your life can pass, completely normal, completely symptom-free, while the thing that is going to kill you sits in your arm getting ready to move. So for Nora, 5 weeks of ordinary life went by. School, friends, the bat already a half-forgotten story. Then the first symptoms came, and they looked like nothing. A headache, a low fever, the kind of tired that makes you think you're catching whatever's going around. Walk into any clinic in the country with those symptoms, and no one on earth says the word rabies. They say rest, fluids. It's probably a virus. And technically, they're right. It was a virus. There was one clue. One. A strange tingling, a crawling, prickling feeling in the hand where the bat had scratched her weeks after the mark had healed and vanished. That sensation is almost the signature of rabies, the virus reaching the nerve roots near the spine. But you'd have to know to ask about an animal from weeks ago to connect a tingling finger to a bat nobody remembered. No one thought to. She wasn't getting better. She just didn't know yet that she wasn't. Here's what was actually happening inside her in those quiet weeks. While everyone thought she was fine, the virus had finally reached a nerve, and it did the thing that makes rabies one of the most frightening pathogens we know of. It started to climb, not through the blood, where your immune system patrols, but up inside the nerve itself, moving the wrong way along the wiring from the hand toward the spinal cord and the brain. Slowly, hidden. That hiding place is the whole tragedy of this disease. Because the virus travels sealed inside your nerves, your immune system barely registers that anything is wrong. No fever fighting it, no swelling, no alarm, right up until it's too late. Which is exactly why the rabies vaccine has one job and one deadline. It has to teach your body to kill the virus before the virus reaches your brain. Win that race and you live. Lose it and almost nothing can be done. Nora's body never knew to run the race. No one had told it to. By the time the headache started, the virus was arriving. It reached her brain and began to inflame it. Encephalitis, the brain swelling inside the fixed box of the skull. And then it did one last, almost deliberate thing. It turned around and traveled back out along the nerves, into her salivary glands, into her skin, flooding her saliva with copies of itself. That isn't an accident. That's the design. The virus loads the mouth, then drives the host to bite, so the next bite carries it onward. It is, in the coldest sense, a thing that hijacks an animal to make more of itself. In Nora, that hijacking was about to surface as the most famous and most terrible symptom in all of medicine. She came into the hospital confused and frightened, and getting worse by the hour. For most people who reach this stage, about 4 out of 5, rabies takes a form doctors call furious. Agitation, flares of panic and aggression, hallucinations, a nervous system firing without control. The other 1 in 5 get a quieter version, a creeping paralysis that climbs up from the bitten limb, which is its own kind of cruel, because it gets mistaken for other things entirely. Nora's was the furious kind, and then came the water. A nurse offered her something to drink, and the instant it reached her lips, her throat seized. Not a gag, a violent, full-body spasm of the muscles of the throat, painful and uncontrollable, her body recoiling from the glass as if it were a threat. They tried again later. Same thing. Soon the mere sight of water, the sound of it running from a tap, was enough to set off the spasm. This is hydrophobia, the fear of water that has been the signature of rabies for thousands of years, and it isn't psychological, it's mechanical. The virus has wrecked the part of the brain that coordinates swallowing, so swallowing itself becomes an agony, and the body learns to refuse. The same misfiring reflex can be triggered by nothing more than a draft of air across the face. And because she could no longer swallow even her own saliva, it pooled and ran. The foaming at the mouth everyone has heard of, and almost no one understands. A teenage girl, fully awake inside all of it, unable to drink, terrified of the water her body was desperate for. That is what rabies looks like once it is won. And still, even now, the doctors didn't have the answer. A young patient, going downhill fast, a brain on fire, no obvious cause. Lots of things inflame the brain, and rabies, in a country with a handful of cases a year, sits near the bottom of that list. It's the thing you are trained not to think of first, until someone asks the right question. Has she been around any animals? Any bites? Anything even weeks ago? and somebody in that room remembered a bat. The tests confirmed the thing no one wanted to say out loud. Rabies. Under the microscope, in cases like hers, pathologists sometimes find the fingerprint of it, tiny, round inclusions inside the brain cells called Negri bodies. The classic smoking gun of rabies, on the rare occasions they're there at all. The picture was complete. And by every rule of medicine, it was a death sentence, because here is the truth that makes this disease so feared. Once the symptoms of rabies begin, once it's in the brain and doing what it did to Nora, it is almost universally fatal. Not serious, not often fatal. Historically, the death rate in unvaccinated patients has been essentially 100%. In all of recorded medicine, only a handful of people have ever been documented to survive it. The vaccine, the one sure thing, only works before this point, and they were weeks past it. So her doctors did something that had never worked before. They gambled. They put her into a deep, drug-induced coma, deliberately shutting her brain down, while pumping in antiviral drugs. The theory was desperate and strange. If rabies kills by overwhelming the brain before the immune system can respond, then maybe. If you power the brain down and protect it, you can buy the body just enough time to catch up and fight back. It had no track record. It had never saved anyone. By any honest description, it was a shot in the dark, with a teenager's life on the line. For days, she lay in that coma, while her family waited to find out whether they were keeping her alive or just prolonging the end. And then, against everything the textbooks promised, she woke up, and she lived. She became the first person ever documented to survive rabies without having received the vaccine, a real medical miracle and not a small one. She left the hospital changed, the recovery long and the damage real, but she left it alive, which no one in her position had ever done before. It would be a beautiful place to stop, a cure found in the dark. But that isn't what this was, and pretending otherwise would be the most dangerous thing this story could do. Because in the 20 years since, doctors around the world have tried that same desperate coma protocol on other dying patients over and over, and it has failed almost every single time. A review published in 2025 counted at least 64 documented failures and argued flatly that it's time to abandon it. The thing that saved Nora has saved almost no one since. So why did she live? The honest answer is that researchers don't think it was the coma at all. The best explanation is that her own immune system, for reasons specific to her, happened to mount a response unusually fast, possibly helped by a weaker strain of bat virus that was never recovered and never tested. She didn't survive because medicine had an answer. She survived because she got lucky, against staggering odds. She isn't proof that rabies is beatable. She's the exception that shows you how completely it isn't, and that is the whole point, so let me make it as plain as I can. Worldwide, rabies still kills an estimated 59,000 people every year. Around 99% of them are infected by dogs, mostly across Asia and Africa, and roughly 4 in 10 of the dead are children under 15. In the United States, vaccines and fast treatment have driven it down to fewer than 10 deaths a year, and of those, the leading cause by a wide margin is bats. At least 7 out of 10 Americans who die of rabies were infected by one, often without ever knowing they'd been bitten. Here is the one thing I need you to take from all of this, because it is the difference between a scare and a tragedy. Rabies is almost perfectly preventable and almost perfectly unsurvivable. Both of those are true at the same time, and the only thing standing between them is the clock. If you're exposed and you act before symptoms start, the treatment works. You wash the wound, you get a course of rabies shots, and when it's needed, an injection of antibodies. Health agencies describe it as almost invariably effective. Nearly everyone who gets it in time lives. It is one of the most reliable saves in all of medicine. But once the symptoms begin, the fever, the tingling, the fear of water, there is, for any practical purpose, no cure. The whole fight is a race, and the finish line is the first symptom. So here's what to actually do. If an animal bites or scratches you, any animal, wash it hard with soap and running water for a full 15 minutes, then get medical advice. And take bats seriously in a way most people don't. If you wake up and there's a bat in your room, or you find one in a room with a child or anyone who can't reliably tell you whether they were touched, don't wave it off because you can't find a wound. You might never find the wound. Make the call. Let a professional decide. This is not a reason to fear bats or to hurt them. The overwhelming majority are not rabid, and they matter. They pollinate, they keep the insects down, they belong out there. The thing in this story was never the animal. It was a virus, and a wound too small to take seriously, and a window that closed while everyone slept. Nora's window closed on the night she decided a scratch wasn't worth a phone call. She is alive by something close to a miracle. The reason I'm telling you is so that you never need one. Because the most dangerous part of rabies isn't the bite you feel. It's the one you don't.